So, hi everyone, and thanks for coming to this workshop. What we will be doing today is going over the Scribus application and covering some basic things for the preparation of uh, desktop publishing documents. So we can do stuff like modules or decks of cards or that kind of thing. Okay, now I'm hoping that you've both got Scribus installed, although if you don't, you can find the link in the chat at the moment. For people watching at home after the workshop, you can find the links in the description below. Okay, and we're going to get started with some simple text editing just to put a document together. Now, when you open Scribus, if you want to create a new document, you have two options: single page or facing pages. You can use both. Single page is possibly more useful for generating PDF documents. Facing page is a lot more useful for print documents. But since I want to demonstrate some things with this today, we're going to go for facing pages. Everything else, like paper size, orientation, should be familiar from any other word processing document, word processing application you're familiar with. Okay, with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so this is our blank page, which we'll be working on. The blue lines are the margins, the red lines are the page boundaries, or the bleeds. Depending on how you set up the page, the bleeds can also be further in. But again, that's mostly a printing thing, which we shall not be going into today. Okay, for now, let's just start with dropping in some content in here. So I'm going to go for the text frame, this T icon over here at the top, and dragging it out over there. Now let's say if I want to make it go all the way to the margins, I could drag it and try to put it right in place, or I could just go to align and distribute. Select relative to margins, and align sides by resizing. Now we can click these buttons. Oops, I should select it first. You can click these buttons, and that will make it match the margins exactly. And I can type in my fancy title. Oops. Okay, now if I want to get some content in here, I'm just going to add another text box. And I'm going to do the same thing with the margins. I want to leave some space down there for reasons that will be clear later. But I want the top of this to match the bottom of this exactly. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click my title box. Go up here and make the alignment relative to the last selected item, which was the title. Now we can use these. Align the top of the item to the bottom of the anchor. And that will resize the two to match. With me so far?
Mostly, but I'm seeing some kind of visual differences here. I think it may be some version issues or just some settings that you've got set that are not here by default.
Okay. For example, if you're missing the align and distribute tab maybe or something like that.
Yeah, and also the icons are different. So I guess you're on
Yeah.
the 1.5 version and we're on the 1.4 stable version.
It's okay. So you should still have the align and distribute tab in here.
Yeah, I was able to manually open that. It's not
Okay.
it's not docked the way the way yours is, but
No worries. But again, it should work in exactly the same way, so you should be able to follow it through with this. Okay. Most of the stuff are the same between 1.5 and 1.4 and 1.5, so you should be okay. Okay. So next up, let's get some text in here, okay? There are a couple of ways of doing this. You could literally double-click that and start typing. You could right-click and pick Edit Text with Story Editor, which also works, but both of these aren't really useful if you want to put in large amounts of text. They're useful if you want to tweak stuff or modify fonts in particular spaces and so on, but if you have a large volume of text, it's easier to import it from a text file. So right-click and Get Text. Okay, and I can pull in any text file with the text already in it. Okay, now what we will see here is that there is this little red X in the corner, and that tells me that the text is overflowing. There's too much text for it to fit in this box over here. So what we're going to do is we have to add another text box, another text frame to take up the overflow. To do that, we're going to have to create another page. So page menu and insert. And we're going to add another page at the end, which creates a second page for us here. To drop another text frame. And I'm going to align it relative to the margins like I did the other one. Okay. Again, I'm leaving a little space at the bottom. Now, to link these two, I'm going to select the first text frame. Item, text frame links, and link text frames. You can also use the N shortcut key. Okay, once you click that, select the second text frame, and the text will continue over from one to the other. Okay, and you can use this on any number of frames. If you have a very long document, you can link 3, 4, or 5 text frames, no problem. Okay, so far?
curious if there's any way to automate that. If you have a big block of text and you want to just tell it create the right number of pages with each frame filled the way you need it.
I'm guessing there's probably some plugins for that, but it's mostly setting up the a limited number of pages, maybe for a chapter at most. I haven't had cases where I need to have more than 4 or 5 text frames linked in this way. Especially if you want to make them in smaller chunks with items breaking them up in between. It really depends on how you want to lay out your pages. Okay, let's move on and add some formatting to this text because it's pretty boring right now. So we could select the item, go to the content properties, which you can enable using the F3 key, and we could change the fonts and stuff from here. However, that might be a bit of a problem if we have if we want to keep a consistent format of title across multiple chapters, for example. So what we can do instead is use paragraph styles and character styles. So if you press the F4 key, we'll bring up the style manager, and we can create a new paragraph style. I'm going to call it section title. Okay. If I jump to the character style tab, I can base it on the default character style. And let's make this look well. Size of 18. And apply that. Okay. So if I go to the content properties here, I can now select section title from here. That will be set up. You can also make it centered or whatever. Okay. So if I want to create a new section title here, for example, okay. So if both of them with the same style, and if, say, for example, I change my mind later and I don't like that font or whatever, I can come back here, for example, and replace all of them at the same time. Okay, in this case it's a bad choice because it doesn't have any numbers, but let's make it something else. There we go. Okay, and the same goes for any other content you want to make in here. Okay, so far?
I'm just trying to follow along. Kids downstairs, so.
Okay. Okay, so next let's say that we want this text to be in columns rather than a whole block. You can do that by going to the text properties. Again, you can open that using the F3 key if it's not available, and picking columns and text distances. Just need to add the number of columns. Now we can increase the gap in here to give some breathing room. Okay, so far, and we can apply the same thing here. To, let's say, okay, let's bring this up over. Okay, now this is already the right size. I don't want to resize it, but I want it to be logged under this one. So to pick move over here, align it with the margin, align it to the last selected, and glue it to that. Okay, everyone following okay so far?
Yeah, I think you can continue, Carl.
Okay. So let's get some images in here. Okay, we can use the image frame. It's the I shortcut key. And just draw a box in here. Right click on that and click get image. Let's say we want to use this picture of a dwarf here. Okay, this will load the image at its original size, so it will not fit in the frame. But what you can do is right click and adjust image to frame. That will fit it into whatever you have there. Now the problem here is that, as you may see, the the text is overrunning the image. So we're going to need to change the flow over there. Okay. So in the Properties tab, which you can open using the F2 key, under Shape we have these text flow options. By default, it's no flow, so your image is literally under the text. You can also make it inline, so the text will flow around the box, but that doesn't really look very good. Okay, and another option we have is making the text flow around the contour line, which means that we can give the item a contour and let the text flow around that. And the way we do that is select the shape, go to Edit, and pick Edit Contour Line. And here we'll have these node handlers here. You can just drag them and move them. And the text just follows around those. Okay, now the shape is a bit more complex than a simple box, so these 4 points are not enough, but we can add more nodes. And that will let us shape the contour closer to what we need. Okay, so some of these positions are not necessarily a good idea, but just for the sake of example. Come on. There we go. Okay. So now you've got your text flowing around the image like this. All good so far?
Yep.
Okay. So let's add some page numbers. Now, this is fairly straightforward, but you'll notice in a second that it's not very efficient. So I'm adding a text box. Okay, insert, character, and page number. Okay, and that's one. I can copy this. Oops. Go into the second page, paste it, and move it there. Now, as you can imagine, this isn't a very good way of doing page numbers. If I have a 300-page document, I don't want to do this on every page. But what I can do instead is, let's remove those for now. Can edit master pages. And here we have normal left and normal right master page. You can create a number of these. And what these do is define immutable items for every page. So literally the items that you will need on every single page. I usually use this for things like background images and decorations and that sort of thing. Okay. There we go. So now if I end editing, we have the page numbers on every page. And of course we can format those as we were doing before. Okay, any questions so far?
I saw what you did with the master page, but I didn't see, or I can't find the equivalent on my version, how you got to that window.
It should be under Edit, Master Pages. Check.
Yeah, it's there. Edit and then master pages, and then you can create a new master page.
Okay, so did you find it?
Yes, I found it.
Ah, okay. So yeah, the thing is that anything in the master page is not cannot be interacted with in the edit mode. So if you see here, for example, I cannot actually do anything with that. So mostly I leave it for background elements or page decorations, that kind of thing that have to be on every page. Okay, next up, let's add a table of contents. So first thing, I'm going to add a page at the beginning of the document. And I'm going to put a text box in here. Now from the properties, I'm going to change the name to TOC box. Okay, I don't normally organize things in this way, but for the tables of contents, it's very useful to have that. Okay. Next up, I'm going to go to the file menu and document setup. Right, I've got to warn you ahead of time that this is not terribly intuitive, but it works. So we're going to document item attributes, add, and I'm just going to add a new attribute called table of contents item. Type string, and we can leave the rest as it is. Next, we're going to go to tables of contents. We're going to add a new one, and we're going to link it to the attribute we just created, which is TOC item. Destination frame will be the table of contents frame we created earlier, which is identified by name. And okay. Now we need to tell it what to use for table of contents. So I'm going to pick this title, right click and attributes. Add an attribute and we'll give it the text we want to show up in the table of contents, and we're going to do the same. Excuse me, because I just realized that this overflowed and I didn't pay any attention to that. Attributes, add attribute, section 2. Okay. Then we can go to extras and generate table of contents. Just going to create the contents here. We can style these and set them up as we do with any other content. So for example, if we want to put some space in between those, to create a new paragraph style, here it is. And I'm going to further. There we go. Right, and you can change the font to them and do any other changes that you like. Okay, one last thing we have here is that the table of contents is on page 1. Content starts on page 2 and so on. Now, we don't necessarily want that, so I'd like the table of contents to have Roman numerals and the content starting on page 1. So we can do that via document setup again. This time go to sections. Okay, and we're going to say that, okay, the first page from 1 to 1, we'll use Roman numerals. And I'm going to add a second section from page 2 to 3, which uses regular numerals and starts from 1. Once we okay that, okay, this starts on 1, this has page number 2, and this has the letter I. Just remember that anytime you make any changes like these, this has to be regenerated. So going to extras and generate table of contents again, or update document. This one, sorry. Generate table of contents. Okay. So one last useful item. If we want to have these sections also act as PDF bookmarks, you can select them, right click, and go to PDF options, and tick is PDF bookmark. Same thing over here. Okay, and once we export them, it will create a PDF bookmark, and I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Let's go ahead document 1, okay? And to export as a PDF, file menu, export, and save as PDF. let's just ignore those for a second. Okay, I'm going to pick include bookmarks and set that to Acrobat 6. And let that generate. Okay, that's our PDF. We have our bookmarks. And yeah, it's not very fancy, but you could use a combination of these things to just generate any kind of document you like so far. Okay, any questions so far?
Yeah, do you have a way to select all the title boxes at once to make them as a bookmark, or do you have to do them separately?
Ideally, it's separately. You could potentially do it this way, but actually, let me untick them first. Okay, so let's. Okay, so that's checked. That's also checked. Yeah, you could do it that way, but I prefer to do them as I'm going along rather than doing them in one sweep because it's much easier to do that. If you have to go back and select them, you will miss some, you will select the wrong thing or whatever, and it can get kind of messy. So you can totally do that, but just shift clicking to select multiples, but I prefer to do them as I'm going along.
And is there any way to use the properties thingy
The properties,
to set them as a PDF bookmark or not?
I would love it if that was the case, but unfortunately, no, it's not an option yet.
We
Okay. So for the next part, we're going to create a simple character sheet. Okay. Starting with a blank page, and as a background, I'm going to use an existing character sheet. So the size on the mark. Okay, this character sheet is already available in the Discord server in the community creations. So anyone can pick it up from there, or you could just draw your own character sheet and just set the form elements around it. Okay, and we can literally just use these items over here, which are the PDF elements. And just draw boxes in there. Since this is pretty repetitive, I'm only going to do the top part of the sheet. frame, I wanted this one. If text field. Okay, now we can set default values in them. So, okay, we can set default value on these checkboxes. Yeah. By double-clicking to options, you can also change the type to a cross or whatever you prefer. Now with text items, you can change the fonts. Just need to make sure that the font is supported. Or if it's not supported, make sure it's embedded at least. We can do that in the same way as we were doing before with the styles. Can create a large paragraph effect, so let's do that. Let's make it a 18 point. Text properties. Okay. Let's say I also want it to be centered or whatever, so properties, centered. Save for this one. Okay. To export this. Okay, obviously I only change this one, so need to change the others as well. All these are editable. All those are editable. Okay, any questions about this? Hi, Stephen.
Hello.
Okay, any questions about the PDF form element so far?
Nope.
Okay. Discard. Okay, so for the next trick, we're going to do some playing cards. Wait. Need this, I can remove this. So I'm going to create a new document. Single page is fine. Okay, and for this we're going to need the Scribus generator plugin. Now I did give you the link to the Python 3 generator, but if you're using 1.4, you should probably be using the master one instead. So sec. Just throw this link in there. There you go. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to have a file with comma separated values. Which are going to describe the cards that we want to do. For example, I have a fairly simple one here with a name, number of strikes, to be hit, and an image. Okay, and the items are just separated by commas. You could, instead of typing this out, you can create this in Excel or OpenOffice or what have you, and save it as a CSV file. It's just going to generate something like this anyway. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to create a simple card. So I'm going to go with box. Actually, let's just use an image. Nope. Get image and card back. Okay, create another one. Go. Didn't want that to resize. Wanted that to move. Want them to be at the same top position. Want them to contact with each other. That's better. Okay, next we're going to add some placeholders. And the syntax this plugin uses is percentage var underscore and the name of whatever field you want to use. So for example, on the name, we'll be using var name percentage. Center. Okay, any other text which is not going to change will be the same, but I want to add the strikes property. Yeah, it strikes. Okay, and let's say I want to add the to be hit. Again, these can be edited like any other normal text. Okay, now there is a slight difference when it comes to images, which I'll show you in a second. Okay, just going to put in a placeholder image for now. Okay, and I want to make sure that the scaling here is set to frame size and proportional. Now, in order to put a variable name for the image, the documentation states to go to get image and type the item here. So it would be var dash underscore image. Unfortunately, this version won't let you do that because that file does not exist. So as a fudge for that, what you can do is grab your placeholder image, duplicate it, and just rename the file to whatever the placeholder name is. Okay. And this will let you select it just fine. Okay, so let's cancel out of that, get the image again. All files, and that's our placeholder. Okay. Now, if we want to generate multiple cards in the same sheet, there's one last thing I have to do here before I start copying them over. I'm going to create an item at the top here and enter SG. Okay, and that's a keyword the plugin uses to pick up the next item in the file. Right, I'm going to group this. Move it to the side. See, I think I can fit 2 copies in there. So item, duplicate and transform, multiple duplicate. Let's say you make 3 copies. Let's try that again. By rows, sorry. And I want 3 rows of that. Okay, finally, I'm just going to ungroup this. Last item in the page. Remove the SG record. And now I can group this again. The reason we remove the last one is that it can cause it to skip some rows otherwise. To save this, it's in document 3, that's fine. And I'm going to choose execute script. First, assuming you downloaded the generator zip file, but we need to extract it somewhere. In this case, I'm it here. Going to pick script and execute script. Find the script file. Okay, and now I have these options. So document 3 is the document I'm editing now, that's fine. The data file is not document 3, so I'm going to have to find it from over here. These are fine. I'm going to give the output file a name, so let's call it output. Okay, you can output directly to PDF, but I prefer to output to a Scribus file in case there are any tweaks or smaller changes that I need to make, but you could do it either way. And this option is important, it's merge in single file. If you're doing multiple items per sheet, then you want to enable this. Click generate. And it's created this output SLA file which we can open. Hopefully without any surprises. Okay, there we go. We have these filled out and we can output them to a PDF file or add any cutting marks we want to or what have you. Okay. Any questions, anyone?
None for me.
Okay, I think that just about wraps up all the items I had to show for today. If you have any other questions or any specific points, we can talk about them now. Okay, in the meantime, I'm just going to stop this recording and thank you all for joining it today.
Yeah, thank you.